So the veggies come in and go on the pallet here, off the floor, obviously. And then, there's a workflow to it where they get stacked here during harvest, and then we have three-bay sink, just cold water, stainless strainers and plugs, and a little rack for hanging whatever you might need to. And then the window is just sort of extra. I found it on the side of the road and sort of basically taught myself how to weld in steel square tube framing into the corrugated steel, so that you can just screw wood to it. You can kind of see the self-tapping screws are going into that square tube steel that got welded to the corrugated. So that's how I did the window and the door, which we'll see later. So across from there we have a wash pack station. I'm sorry, this is the pack station. This is the wash and this is the pack. And yeah, so this is where most of the packaging and sorting and goes on. And we had power hooked up to an electrician come in, and we buried power to the container. So there's legitimate power to everything we need, so we can isolate. And of course, like some cleaning supplies. It's a good place to dry flowers and herbs and peppers. Good lighting seemed to be pretty important, so we painted the whole interior of the shipping container white. When it came, I think it was like a sort of a ketchup red. It's pretty dark in here, so this was a dramatic change after we painted it white and put these lights in. And we kind of staggered them so that we would have less shadows.
Makes it so you can work early hours, late hours.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about the drain. The drain's kind of interesting.
Oh yeah.
So each bay has its own separate little drain down here, and then the collective drain funnels into this trash can, which is basically, I got the idea from people who work with ceramics. It's like a sediment trap, because we'll look outside, but we basically created like a leach field that drains underground, and I didn't want it to get all clogged up with lettuce leaves and dirt and other stuff. So basically it drains up high, the sediment has a chance to settle, and then the cleaner water drains down in here. And then this little tube is so that we can triple wash and set our salad spinner right up onto here. It's not actually set in the water, it's above it, but so then we can connect like this and spin and drain all in one go.
At an ergonomic height.
Mm-hmm. You have to really hold it,
Yeah.
but you can just crank right here, yep. This is sort of a new, we just needed a place to store it, so this area usually is kind of just a flexible space. We've talked about maybe doing a Speed Queen commercial salad spinner instead of this hand crank one that could live somewhere in here. We've got options, we've got an outlet. This shelving unit came out of our delivery van. There was two, and I decided that one kind of suited my needs and one didn't, so Oliver attached it to the wall and stuck a nice piece of plywood on top. And so we've got knives, scissors, larger knives, and then just some extras, and then stuff specific for flower growing, scissors and twine, stuff like that. And this is where we keep rubber bands and extras, record keeping stuff for organic and other needs. And then this is sort of a flexible corner that we were talking about putting maybe a shelving unit in, but we just weren't sure exactly what we would want to put on it or how we would use it. So I'm kind of just playing around with boxes and seeing what I want to put in it for now. So right now it's just our pints and clamshell storage.
We put in a 2x6 framed room in the rear 16 feet of a 40-foot shipping container. We thought at first we might do half the shipping container, but when it came down to framing time, it seemed like more space than we needed, so we trimmed it down to 16 feet, which still seems generous, but I think it worked out okay. I still have to put in some kind of a door latch, but I'll probably do something simple like we have in our greenhouse, just a simple bent rod type of thing, but it's all beaded weather stripping and a beveled door so that we can keep all the cold air in and take a look inside. We've done corrugated tin roof siding and cool bot. We have a false floor with 2 inches of foam underneath the 3/4 inch plywood false floor for that. Makes a big difference to insulate the floor. You get a whole lot more overall insulation value on the room when you do that. I was shocked to look it up. There's a calculator, there's online calculators where you can figure out how much insulation value you get on a room, and I thought, oh, maybe I can get away without insulating the floor. It's kind of a hassle. But then we did the math, and it was like a no-brainer to insulate the floor, so that was good to know. I could kind of proceed with confidence knowing that it was going to make a big difference. We did get the biggest air conditioning unit. I think it's a 24,000 BTU unit, which somebody gifted to us. That's what we needed, but really it's not quite enough to get us down to where we'd like to be.
For this big of a space, yeah.
Yeah, but I think it was pretty important to put the AC right in the middle of the long space so that we could get as much flow into the middle of the room as we could.
Got motion sensor lights, which is an awesome feature.
Yeah, so we can manually turn it off, but otherwise it just comes on and off automatically when you come into the room. So because it's a closed off room, we didn't want to be worrying about, who was in there last and did we turn off the light before we left? So that's been a nice feature. We also put in a ramp.
Just looking at that, yeah.
There's a ramp for the false floor just so nobody trips.
Or if we're using a dolly, or I haven't bought them quite yet, but I want those like flat just to stack the totes on so I can shuttle stuff right in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just using these seed trays as inexpensive dunnage racks, so I'm not setting stuff on the floor, but flowers get stored here, and then kind of dirty produce waiting to be washed. This is stuff on its way out this week, sort of our start of our market week, but we fill up kind of one for market, one for wholesale, a little bit of house stash in the back. And then I started storing my clean bins in here actually, because they stay dry, they stay cool. I'm not putting, nice, cool, wet produce into a steaming hot bin. No animal poop or anything. That seems to make the water drip away just enough that I'm not going to worry about it too much. And since I'm not a real welder, or I'm not like a professional welder, I did it so it would be strong enough to suit my needs. And then if I had to use a little silicone somewhere, then that's what I did. But there was plenty of places where, it's not a perfect fit, to put in a door that's meant to be framed into a 2x4 house. To put it in, a very thin walled building, you have to get kind of creative with your engineering of it. So
But it's pretty important to keep water out. You don't want the floors in this thing are made of insect resistant, rot resistant, marine grade plywood. I think it's 1 inch thick. So it's pretty heavy duty plywood, but you still want to get the unit pitched so that the water flows out of it typically. Ours is not, but I aspire to fix that. It's just slightly pitched the wrong way. Folks might be interested to note the what they're set on, which is just 6x6 footings. This one goes across to a similar footing on the other side. That seems like a pretty stable way to rest the container.
Any concrete or just a couple stacked blocks?
Just a couple of stacked blocks. Yeah.
Front and back?
Yeah. Well, that worked out pretty good. This has got the steel square tube welded in, and then this is the piece that came out of this hole. So I just welded it to the top, hoping to keep some of the snow and rain off of the AC unit. I didn't bother to like seal it properly. It just keeps most of the moisture off. At this point, it's been good enough. We're pretty happy with it. Obviously, we ran out of green paint. Since nobody else looks back here, I've just not bothered to run back to the paint store. Made a strip just to keep the water off the window because, you know, I could someday like formally trim this in, but it's really doing the job that I need it to do. It's weather tight from the inside, and it's not a perfect fit because it's not really meant to be on a shipping container, but you know, it doesn't leak into the building, so I'm happy with it. You know, we've got what we need. I could spend a bunch of time doing fancy carpentry on it, but ain't nobody got time for that.